Welcome to Heather Ewing, the CRE Rundown. And today I have none other than the beautiful Ari, all the way from Los Angeles, California. She is the luxury broker that you want to meet. Ari, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Heather.
My pleasure. So I wish we had your weather here in Wisconsin, but it is not happening.
It is beautiful out at 80.
That's perfect. If you can, Ari, please share with our guests a little bit more about yourself so they can get to know you more.
Commercial luxury real estate agent here out of Los Angeles, mainly focusing on luxury leasing. I do as well a little bit of industrial, but mainly focus on retail leasing at this moment.
Perfect. And so backing it up a little bit further, you've been in the arena 10, 12 years. Tell us, how did you get into it? What was the allure? And bridge the gap for people.
Thank you. It started back I went to University of Arizona in Tucson, Arizona. So I started there. I was a bit confused at the beginning how to navigate life or what career choices I wanted to make. So what I did is I started with interior design. And I had a scholarship for right to U of A. So I said, you know what? Instead of going straight in, let me try to take some electives outside of the university so I can
Mhm.
kind of determine which route I want to take. So what I did is I took an interior design class.
Perfect.
And that's when I kind of focused more on the creative side. So I started
Mhm.
doing like floor plans and working with colors and construction. And then I realized I was like, okay, this is probably something that I really, really want to do. So what I did is I started taking construction courses, which mainly focused on building homes and like those type of courses. But then afterwards, I got an internship with a property investor.
Mhm.
So he started teaching me, the rent roll side of it, the investing side of it, mortgages. And then I said, okay, well, this is really interesting. So then the following summer, I took my real estate license over in Arizona. I went to Hogan School of Real Estate. And then after that, the following summer, I did some internship work at the Ritz-Carlton with the residencies there. And
Nice.
then the following year, I graduated and I moved to Los Angeles. And I ended up here because of my twin sister. She went to FITM, the
Okay.
Fashion Institute. And every time I had a chance, I was in LA. She was already here a year before me. So I moved out here with her and I started with the developer investor and then just went from there.
That's wonderful. And that's why I always find it so intriguing, people's storylines, because it's always kind of a wandering path, right? Like some people know from high school, this is what they want to do. They go 200%, they're there. I'm similar to you where it took a little finessing, if you want to say, to get into it, but it's such an amazing arena with potential for endless learning, a lot of creativity. So I'm sure you're still utilizing that, especially with the luxury arena. And also, really, the sky is the limit as far as different opportunities. So, how did you segue in with the luxury end? It sounds like you were with the Four Seasons earlier.
Yes, the Ritz-Carlton. But the luxury, yes, I think that's where it sort of started. I said, if you were to do an internship at a hotel due to the construction side of it, because that's when they were building the Ritz-Carlton. So I said, if you wanted to do this part of it, where do you want to end? Because that's your end goal. When you start an internship, it says like,
Mhm.
what are your goals and what do you want to achieve at the end of that internship? So we make sure from the beginning we're not losing control of where we're going, right? So
Mhm.
at that point, I said, it was 5 stars, the service, I forgot what their like mono was, but it was something on that had to do with service and making sure that the customer experience, from the moment that they arrived, if they were going to purchase or if they were going to stay at the hotel, it just felt so warm from the moment that you arrived. It was like One of the things
Right.
that I remember so well is that when that person arrived to the hotel, it's like on their headphones, they would speak like, Mr. Thompson just arrived. Just say hello, Mr. Thompson. From the moment that they opened that door, they arrived to the hotel, they were like, hi, Mr. Thompson. It was like magic. So from that
Right.
moment when they start there, and I just feel like experience with luxury and everything that you do with the brands, they want to make sure that you cultivate that, right? They want to
Hmm.
make you feel special. They want to make sure that they're surprising you in every way that they can. So I think that luxury and services, that whole experience of it has been my most favorite part of it. So I think, when you start up here, when you feel this way, like flying first class, it's hard for you to come back down
Right.
to.
Right. Right. Very true.
So I think that's why I said, okay, it's definitely luxury for me. My twin sister did FITM, excuse me, studied at FITM, and just the Fashion
Mhm.
Institute and that whole world with it, and art and fashion and luxury is just, it all fits in somehow. And just, when you drive on Rodeo, they said, when I started here, Joe said, what do you want your market to be? And I said, I don't know. They were like, well, West Hollywood's taken, Santa Monica's taken, we're in Los Angeles,
Right.
Beverly Hills. Let's start there. He's
Right.
like, are you sure you want to do? And I'm like, it's a tough market, but the brands
Right.
that are there forever, and you want that experience.
Yeah. Well, and commercial real estate is a long-term endeavor anyways. And that's where if people are looking for, the quick hits, the quick deals, that type of thing, it's just not going to be a good fit. And I agree too with having a higher caliber offering the service that's paralleled with that. It just creates such a beautiful experience. And I think it's one of those too of the old flea market attempts of people just shooting things out everywhere of information and really just whoever bites is not appealing. And I think especially in today's market where it's not cookie cutter and you have to understand the market at its finest. Otherwise, you're not going to continue. And I think that high caliber service is genuinely what people desire.
Exactly. And I think every single store and brand, when you walk into Rodeo, or, even when I've gone to New York and stuff, you walk in and it's about the smell. It's about
Mhm.
the location, where they're putting, each item in color form, making sure that, it's capturing everyone's attention as you're walking in, and the experience from the moment that you walk in all the way to you walk out. It's about the smell, the look, the taste, they're capturing all
Right.
five senses at once. So I love that experience for me. So that's where it is for me.
That sounds perfect. So what are your next steps? What do you envision for the next 5? What's a big goal that you're working towards, whether it's a certain account or anything you can share with us in that arena?
I think I've gotten to, it's good that you put place goals on yourself. And I think that after, I mean, I've been here since January of 2022. So I've been with this brokerage since for 2 and 3 months now. So
Yeah.
I always say, and I look down and said, what have I done so far? Like, how many deals have I closed? Or like, how many deals do I want this year? And, and I look at it and I said, as long as I doubled down what I did from last year, right? So I'm like, and
Right.
I push myself, but I like pushing
Yeah,
myself. If people are not putting fire
definitely.
under your feet, I don't think you get to that goal. So I think
Right.
that this year, I mean, I think I did like, can't remember the number of deals I did last year, but I know for sure that this year I want to get to at least 25, or, double that what I did last year. Now, when it
Right.
comes to clients, yes, I'm more of a tenant rep agent.
Hmm.
And clients are always like the things that I look after. And I've had to fire already, we're in March, and I've had to fire already 2 clients this year.
Yes.
And it's exciting. It's exciting, but so it's who you do the same amount that I'm going to do sometimes for one client, the deal can be twice as small or twice as big. So I just say, you know what,
Mhm.
Ari, last year I ended the year and I said, you have to start getting to that next level with your clients, and it's the names, the brands, you know.
Right.
So it's hard. It was really, really hard how I ended the year. I did really well, but at the end of the day, I said, you have to learn how to say no. to certain people. And I do not like saying no. So
It's challenging, isn't it?
it's
I
so
agree. It
and
can
I
be, I think that is really a point for a lot of people to work on. So you're definitely not alone. I know it's something that I too really have to monitor.
and I'm like, it's gonna take the same amount of work to do this project as to do this project. So focus
Yes.
on this project and you will be in that scale and you will only grow and grow and grow from there. So yeah, that's it slowed down a bit for me at the end of the year last year, but the reason why is because I said, you know what, at this point I have to go to the next scale and grow
Yeah.
that. So names, yes.
Sage,
There are
sage advice,
brands.
though.
Yeah, there are brands
Definitely.
that sometimes I say like I would really like for LVMH or Keurig or and I do have some phone conversations with these clients and I do ask
Mhm.
like what is the next pop-up? What are you all looking for? So I
Right.
can assist on this side with the real estate. They do share a lot of ideas. They don't go too far, but I also like to collab and say, these are my ideas. What do you all think? And they love that. So we go back
Right.
and forth, which is great. But I think we will get there at a certain point, just not quite yet, because it takes a long time.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's where your interior degree design also comes in really handy with the spatial, the balancing of elements, color, everything else. So it's kind of neat how all of our earlier experiences and connections really are different resources for our present and future, even though we may not always know how they're going to be utilized. It's always a stepping
Now the
stone in that
future.
sense, right?
Yes.
So, speaking of goals, I understand you are running your first half marathon.
I am. I'm so excited. I know
Woo!
that. Thank you. I'm not doing the full marathon like you. So
Half is a
yeah, I'm
great goal.
starting June 9th. It is the Bank of America 13.1, which is half marathon. I'm
Mhm.
so excited. So maybe you can share some, guidance, but I do start with 3 miles and I just make
Mhm.
sure that I don't stop and then I bump it up to 5 and then I just stop from there. But I'm trying if you can give me some advice.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
Well, and what I can do too is there's different training plans, which are nice.
Nike Run Club is the one that I use.
Oh, nice. I use the classic Hal Higdon. So there's a lot of people in the running community that know the Hal Higdon. The guy's been around forever. I don't know if he's still, um, living or not at this point, but I've used those for halves and then fulls. But, I think I'm starting to get some strength training and hills in since, I'm training for my marathon right now. And that makes a big difference. So I think even simple things like that of seeking out hills at different times and also foam rolling. Foam rolling
Really?
is a huge win. And it's funny because I just turned 50 last month. And for the past few years, I've just noticed a different when it comes to stretching. And so I foam roll all the time. And here's my christening gift of advice that I always tell people is a salt bath. Four
Ooh,
pounds. 4 pounds of Epsom salts. Yes, I'm a mermaid. And so
I'm
you
a
you just
mermaid.
yes, you load the tub up and it is just a great you know, muscle recovery
Yeah, I was gonna
post
say.
post foam rolling.
I love that. I do have a foam roller. And I'm so bad at getting into the habit. I often leave. I'm running around through work and everything, and by the time I run home, I run and I try to do early mornings, but it's so hard
Yeah.
for me because I love to recover in the mornings. And then if I do my running at night, it I sleep so well. So I love to sleep at night. I don't do you sleep in, excuse me, do you run in the mornings or at night?
It really depends on what I have planned for the day. And so the nice thing is, I've been very dedicated to running since 2015, so for about 8 years. So I don't necessarily chart a time on it, but I plan out either it's going to be the morning or once in a while a lunch, a lunch, late lunch, but typically the evening. And so depending upon weather, I'll base it off of that. It's definitely a lot warmer in Wisconsin in the winters in the early afternoon. So it's based on those things, but I have pretty good discipline where sometimes it's been late at night. I've had 10 p.m. runs. I've gotten better
Those
over
are
the
my
years.
favorite. Those are,
Yes,
it's so dark out and it sounds a little bit dangerous, but it's like I go running and it feels like I'm meditating as I'm running.
exactly.
And then I run in a
Exactly.
hill. So when I come
Yeah.
back down, it feels like, you know what they say that you get the runner's high?
Right.
It's like
Right.
you are flying down that mountain, and I'm like, I absolutely love this. My face is freezing, but it feels so good. And
Right.
it's like I don't want to stop, but then once I stop, I'm like, wow, that was amazing. Like, and that's why I
Yeah.
like doing it late at night. They've told me they're like, you need to stop doing that. But I was like, I love it. I love
There's something about holiday lights too. You know what I
Oh
mean? And it
yeah.
feels like especially well, if it's snowing here in Wisconsin, you almost feel like you're in like a real life snow globe because it's
I
coming
love
down and then you're looking at the
that.
lights and you're going and it's kind of like I always feel like I run a lot faster too. I think because you see more through the periphery, maybe. I don't know. But it's yeah, there is something very special and meditative about it. And that's why I think I also prefer the outdoors. Do you prefer nature versus treadmill?
I do. I'm a
Mhm.
huge fan of CrossFit. Um, and then after COVID, it was, the gyms were it just
Mm,
felt different. Um,
right.
I got into running and I've switched it out. I've always switched it out, but
Yeah.
for some time I just did I know you know Barry's boot camp. I love Barry's boot camp. And I could
Yeah.
run in there and I feel great once I'm done. But for some reason, for some time, I switched it out just to running.
Yeah. Well,
And
there's a simplicity, isn't there? Like you walk out your door, and especially we're busy, right? In brokerage, it's busy, things change,
that's why.
and you can get a great workout in 30 minutes where you can't do that in a CrossFit or a base camp. By the time you drive, by the time you get there,
That's what
go
it
through
is.
everything.
It became
Hmm.
this. I was feeling like anxious every single time when it's like I have to be in the class by 7:30, so I have to leave this, and then the traffic, and then by the time I get home, and then the time I change, and then I have to make dinner, I have to, plan
Right?
with friends or significant other, and I'm like, I don't have time.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that is
I love it.
great.
I love it. And I know it's really, really cold where you live. Do you wear like a face mask?
I do on certain days. So
That
I'll
cold?
run. Yes, yes. Um, we've had it too where our eyelashes, like they freeze just about it
Freeze
because
to
your eyes will
that.
water and yeah. But I'll run as long as it's 4 degrees and above, I'll run. But typically when it's below 20, I usually need a face mask.
Below
At
20.
16 degrees and down. Yeah, yeah. It's a real treat. We'll leave it
That's
at that.
normal for you?
Well, I mean, luckily it's been a nice winter for us, but you have all different weather. Wisconsin's a little moody, so you never know
Okay.
what you're going
Okay.
to encounter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even what I did the other day is that we had rains for almost 2 weeks, and it was just raining and raining and raining and raining. It got to a point that I was like, I'm gonna run in the rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had
Good
my
for you.
sweater and then I put the raincoat over, the coat over
Yeah.
to run in it. I felt great. My face was getting wet and I was like, that's fine.
Right.
I was like, and
Yeah.
it felt great. I'm like, I have no problem. So I would definitely like to try out the snow.
Well, we can arrange that. Be careful what you ask for. So now you're running your first half. I think that is so awesome and know that you can give me a call, let me know how I can help. But how would you say in training for that, how do you see it tying into commercial real estate? Because I see such a connection between the two.
And there is. I think when you start out, commercial real estate is a very tough. So when I
Mhm.
started here, the reason why I chose this brokerage is because they said, you have to work really, really hard for this amount of time. I need somebody
Mhm.
behind me to be telling me, hey, you need to be here from 8:30 in the morning to 6, sometimes 7, and so
Mhm.
many calls and marketing and, do all of these things. And I said, okay, somebody has to be telling me that in the back of my mind, right? I have to
Yeah.
do this, I have to do this. But with running, I've always felt the same. And I said, I have to have somebody in the back of me always telling me, you need to run, you need to run. I grew up with my father. We're a family of 6. I have 2 stepsisters, but a family of
Yeah.
6. My dad was always running with us, and he always like had a little
Oh, neat.
stick. It was like go, go. And if you weren't running, he was hitting the behind you, saying like run, run, run. So that's where I got that from running. So I always said
That is
that's where it
great.
got me to. Now with
Right.
for real estate, it's the same thing. You might have your mentors behind you telling you, you have to do this. I know that I'm doing it, but if somebody can
Well,
push me to do a little bit more, and I always have
right.
that behind my head of saying, like, you
Mhm.
made 70 calls, you can make 20 more, and you always have that. You can do a little bit more, you can do a little bit more. So you're always
Yeah.
pushing yourself. So I feel like both of them, I can always say, I'm either pushing myself, saying like you can do a little bit more, even though you say like,
Yeah.
you could stop there. But when it comes to running, I do the same thing. Or when it comes to doing work, you can do a little bit more. If it's one more event that you can go this week, if it's one more call that you can make, one more touch that you can make, I do it because it's
I
something
love
that
it.
you have in you that you're always pushing yourself for more and more and more, even though you're like, no, you can stop there. I'm like, more.
Well, I think there's such a satisfaction with
There is.
that too, right? Because, I always say that you need to be able to command yourself to do something. That might sound weird, right? But I think of it in running in different deals of going the extra mile on whichever path it is that you have to make a firm decision and live up to it. And then always by adding that little bit, it's like you always know there's a little reserve, no matter how fatigued you are, whether it's deal fatigue or, a long training run or something like that. And that reminds me of Ed Milet. Do you ever listen to him?
No, Ed Millette?
You'll love it. So his whole premise is essentially doing a little bit more. It's like one more, rep at the gym, an extra, tenth of a mile, whatever it is, it's his whole premise. But it's Ed and then it's Mylett. I love his podcast. And
ET.
that's where too on different runs. I enjoy taking in some of these experiences from these great entrepreneurs or thinking about different deals. And that's what I'm curious about you too. Of when you're running, you'll have different deals pop into your head. And I've noticed too that sometimes it's on the run. It's kind of like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to introduce this or that and take it down that road. So I think it's a great source of ideas for different deals too.
It is. And that does happen to me when I'm, running. You don't have
Mhm.
time when you have so many people around you here in the office and the phone's ringing and you're working and you're trying to have this conversation with people and you're trying to focus. When
Right.
my outlet is when I go running. And then I'm like, oh, I forgot that, or I remember this, or can we
Yeah.
risk and push for, more rent abatement, or can we ask for a little bit more TI? And I'm thinking about these things as I'm running, and then I
Right.
go back and I'm like, put them in.
They're great ideas. And
They
I mean,
are.
I've been known too, like that little note section on the cell phone. I've jotted down notes or two. I think, like, obviously, we base things in numbers and you look at all of that. But then I think also sometimes when you're a little bit further out, you just also have a feeling, of
What
like,
if? What if?
I there's a lot of steam in this one and there's more room in it than is being shared.
Yes, I
So,
agree. That is so
yeah,
good. Yeah, I feel that.
definitely. So as we wrap this up, my dear, this is always the big question for people, right? How do you live fully? What does living fully mean to you?
Living fully.
Hmm.
Tomorrow is never promised. Everything will figure itself out. So I do, and it's hard for me because it's again, I'm learning how to say no sometimes, but Sometimes I have my friends or, my family members that just show up and I said, I'm going to say no to them next time because I'm tired or I'm exhausted. And they say, can we go out for a drink or could we go out for this? And I always
Mhm.
say, yes, because you never know. So I do feel with in that sense, like I always say, be happy because
Yeah.
you never know what can happen at any moment. And I always say, if somebody needs your help and calls you at that moment, take the opportunity to take the call or help them out
Yeah.
because they will have your back later on, number one. And number two, when somebody needs you, you don't know how much they need of you. And right now, with everything that's going on in the world and everything. So I feel like
Right.
helping others, being there for others. And when
Mhm.
they invite you to that last minute trip or, even though I try to say no, I'm like, yeah, let's go. It's going to be fine. Everything will work itself out. So I think
It
that's the way.
always does.
It
Yes.
does.
That is perfect. Well, Ari, thank you so much for
Thank
joining me today. And I
you.
will include your information at the end of the podcast as well. But can you share it for those that are maybe just tuning in through a headset?
Yes. Again, my name is Ari Mencias. My phone number is 310-943-8534. Can also be reached on LinkedIn, Ari Mencias, or on Instagram, Retail Girl LA.
Yep, we'll put it on there. So
All
thank you
right.
so much,
Thank you for
Ari.
having me, Heather.
Yes, definitely. See you.
Bye.